Why?
Why? Because lots of lives has been lost, not only from the side of the NATO forces or the ISAF, but as well as the Afghan civilian population. We don't know what's happening with the civilians. We don't know how much people have died, how many people have died in this conflict. So, as a mother, I'm very concerned about that.
There have just been reports that have come out about torture at the Kandahar air base. Have you heard about this?
I've heard about that, and I've read about that, and I think it's this government, the Harper government, should come clean with this issue. There should be an impartial investigation as far as torture is concerned in the Kandahar airfield.
Josie Forcadilla is the mother of a Canadian soldier currently serving in Kandahar. 150 Canadian soldiers have died in Afghanistan. 4 civilians have died. 2 since I actually spoke to her. Naomi Klein, talk about war in the context of the G20 summit and Canada's decision to pull out troops. There are 4,500 troops in a year.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see whether that happens. But I do think that the anger that we saw displayed on the streets of Toronto this weekend did surprise a lot of people. You know, people think of Canada as a very polite country, and there was a lot of anger and a lot of very angry young people. And this has to do with a real transformation that's taken place in our country. And I say that without romanticizing the pre-Harper Canada, because it had many, many flaws, and Canada's a colonial country with a very violent history. But having said that, something has changed under this government, and it began under the preceding government, where the country has become much more militaristic, and the tradition that Canadians identify with, which is the tradition of peacekeeping, not these overt combat missions as we're engaged with in Afghanistan, is really disappearing. And one of the things that you really notice as a Canadian traveling internationally is that people are constantly asking, certainly they're constantly asking you, what is going on with Canada? Canada used to be such a sort of friendly player on the world stage, and, pro-human rights and so on. And now Canada is a really belligerent force. And, Amy, you saw this in Copenhagen around climate change. Canada is the worst record on climate change because of the tar sands. But for me, the turning point in realizing just how bad things had gotten was when Jeremy Scahill reported on a speech that Eric Prince, the CEO of Blackwater, the founder of Blackwater, gave in I believe it was Michigan a couple of months ago. And Eric Prince didn't have a lot of nice things to say about too many people, but he was positively effusive about the role that Canada was playing in Afghanistan. He said, if you ever see a Canadian, stop them and thank them for the role they're playing in Afghanistan. So to me, this was a real sort of turning point in terms of really understanding just how bad things have gotten. We've lost a lot of friends in the world, and the new friends we're making are people like Eric Prince, not the kind of friends we want to have. So yeah, there have been a lot of ongoing torture scandals, with Canadian officials having knowledge of torture when they transfer prisoners in Afghanistan, allowing it to happen. So there's a real identity crisis going on in this country, where a lot of our cherished beliefs about who we are in the world are just being challenged by the facts. And I think that what we saw on the streets this weekend, and this expression of anger in the streets, needs to be seen in that context.
I wanted